Hey guys, TrepChains here on the PTR for Diablo 2.6.10, checking out the updated Exploding Palm Monk build. There's only been one thing updated for this monk in 2.6.10, which is that the Gundo Gear braces, while still applying Exploding Palm like they always have, they now get a damage boost to Exploding Palm of 75 to 100%. Long story short of my testing is that this is insufficient. There needs to be a better or higher buffs to this build. It's not performing anywhere near as well as other monk solo builds. For example, the Wave of Light builds or the Tempest Rush builds. It's far, far, far below them right now. And also not as well as effectively other classes have their solo builds, also far below those. So this monk I feel needs a lot of work. But yeah, this isn't a traditional Exploding Palm build, which is actually like kind of cool. It's a fun build to play when it works, right? Seeing stuff explode like that is actually a lot of fun overall. So I mean, that's the good side. It's just simply not powerful enough. So I'm attempting a greater of 103 here on this monk. I'm at 1240 paragon, and basically I'll be struggling my way through this GR the entire way through. It's going to be a struggle because it's just not powerful enough. Overall, what I think it needs, and I am playing seasonal here, so I do have the seasonal buffs. I have the 4-piece cube in. As well as I will be getting some clones out of the pylons. So the clones will really help me out when I can get some of them, which will be nice. I want this yellow to come in. And see, when you get an explosion like that, you know, which is exploding trash well still at this stage, it's actually quite satisfying. It's just overall, yeah, not powerful enough for this level to do it nicely. And like a lot of classes are doing speeds at this level, basically, even at this paragon, particularly with the season bonus active. So it feels very underpowered. Overall, I feel like the Gundo Gear, you know, the thing that has been updated being the Gundo Gear, let's focus on that for a second. That bonus needs to be increased. So right now it's 75 to 100%. At least double it, right? At least, oh, I'm going to get a clone. This will make my life a bit easier for a while. Got a clone and a shield pylon. So things will get a bit easier here because I do have the clone helping. And the clone is, you know, just powerful or more powerful than me. And thankfully I have this shield pylon while I have these sand dwellers too. That's kind of nice. Thank you, clone, for making... You can see how much easier that was than my previous elites due to my clone helping out. So yeah, Gundo Gear, I think at least double it, if not more. Maybe it needs 300%. Not sure. I haven't done the numbers as such, but it certainly needs buffs. I also think the Uliana 6-piece set should be buffed as well. So the Uliana's 6-piece set currently has a 9000% damage buff to it, and again, I'm nowhere near A, other monk builds, or B, you know, other classes. So I feel there needs to be some overall buffs, so you could do that by buffing the 9000% on the Uliana's 6-piece, basically. That's one option, anyway. So there are a couple of options, but then I also think there's a couple of other significant problems with this build, and that comes back to its survivability, which I've also been having trouble with. I've got several items being worn to help my survivability. I've got a unity on both myself and my follower, because obviously I need it on the follower to help me out. I've got Binding of the Lost, which is giving me damage reduction after each 7-sided strike, which is, you know, really helpful, admittedly. But, you know, it means I do need a 7-sided strike even when I don't technically necessarily think I need to yet. I'm going to pull this elite up to this pylon, finish it off with the clone. No, nothing else down there. Take this here. So that's two things, but then in my 4th cube slot, I'm also using Spirit Guards. So I get 50% damage reduction from the unity, basically. I get 70% from the Binding of the Lost, because 7-sided strike is doing 14 hits at 5% each to give me 70%. And then I'm wearing Spirit Guards so that I'm picking up an extra 60% damage reduction. Effectively, you know, each time I'm hitting with my generator, which is all the time, long story short. So I'm having to wear 3 items for damage reduction. Now, most of the modern sets, you know, the more recent sets, will effectively have damage reduction in the set. But if I look at Uliana's, there is no damage reduction in the Uliana's set. So I think one of the problems here is that there is no damage reduction in Uliana's, and there should be. So the 4-piece set bonus in Uliana's, for what I'm using, is practically useless. It's a 7-sided strike damage bonus, but really all my damage here is coming from Exploding Palm, not 7-sided strike. So you could easily add into that 4-piece bonus, or, you know, if you really wanted it into the 2-piece, but the 4-piece seems to make sense to me, some kind of damage reduction, like if there is an enemy with Exploding Palm applied within 30 yards of you, take 60% less damage, right? If you had something like that in the set, and as I say, most modern sets have a damage reduction, so it's not like out of line, then you could pick up another damage dealing item, which would also help this go higher potentially. So I really think the Uliana set, preferably in the 4-piece, just because the 4-piece right now is relatively useless for this particular build, but otherwise in the 2-piece could pick up a damage reduction that makes sense for it. And as I say, I would prefer something like when stuff has EP on it, Exploding Palm on it near you, you take, you know, 60% or something less damage. The other survivability issue I'm having is related to my Epiphany. So lots of classes have this skill that, you know, when you use it, and like I'm having to use it here primarily for survivability on the monk, it's also giving me, I think it's 50% damage reduction, that, you know, they've got long cooldowns. So this Epiphany here has a really, really long cooldown. And by really long cooldown, I mean a minute. And that doesn't sound necessarily that long when you look at some other classes and some of the cooldowns they have on their similar skills. Like if you consider Akarat's Champion on the Crusader, or Vengeance on the Demon Hunter, for example, right? You've got these skills and they've got these long cooldowns. But for Akarat's Champion and for Vengeance and for many of these other type of skills and other classes, you can effectively get their cooldown really low by effectively using another item, right? There will be an item out there, like for the Demon Hunter example, Dawn on the Demon Hunter, which reduces the cooldown of Vengeance by 65%. That means effectively you have to stack less other items. On this monk right now, I've had to stack so much cooldown, and I still do not have 100% uptime on Epiphany, despite having stacked, I don't know, over 65% cooldown. So honestly, this build is missing something like that to really make it work. I just died. Oops. Died because I hadn't 7-sided striked soon enough. I was trying to get the throwing a 7-sided strike there to get that damage reduction. So yeah, Epiphany is not up, but I do want to kill these because I've got that Condi on this level, which is really important to me because I want to use that to help kill the boss. I do have a Stricken on this build because it's literally useless without it. But this also gives me my clone friend. So, oh no, I've just lost my clone friend by dying right there. RIP. Okay. Well, there goes my clone friend. Do this the hard way. So I do have Stricken, thankfully. Now, without my clone friend, I'm definitely gonna need my Stricken. But yeah, something that, an item that is like basically we need to change an item here to get a Epiphany gets, you know, some high percent, at least 50% cooldown reduction from a legendary item. That needs to exist, and it just doesn't exist for the monk. So yeah, I think there's like 4 key pieces as to why this monk is just nowhere near strong enough. A, the damage buffs of both the Gundo Gear, the change piece, is not high enough. B, the damage buff of the Uliana 6 piece is not high enough. And then the survivability issues with, you know, needing to get effectively a cooldown on Epiphany on some kind of legendary item. It just needs to exist. It doesn't right now. And needing a damage reduction as part of the Uliana set, preferably in the 4-piece, but otherwise in the 2-piece of Uliana's, to really help this survive and hopefully do a bit more damage. So there we go. 103 down. But that's a struggle, right? And as I say, there's a lot of classes that can do 103 quite fast and quite smoothly, and I just can't do that on this monk. So I'll just show quickly what I'm actually using here, my build. Okay. So I am running Uliana's 6-piece. I'm wearing 5 pieces. I've got a Ring of Royal Grandeur in the cube. So my helm here is beautiful, dexterity, critical hit chance, exploding palm damage, physical resistance, and reduces the duration of control impairing effects. My shoulders, also quite nice, dexterity, vitality, resistance, cooldown. I do want some area damage on those, but I just haven't decided whether to roll off the vitality or the resistance to all. My gloves here, running dexterity, crit hit damage, crit hit chance, and cooldown. My chest armor, running dexterity, vitality, and armor. Would prefer all resistance instead of that armor. My pants, running dexterity, vitality, and armor. Again, would prefer all resistance probably, as opposed to that armor. Running 2 pieces Captain Crimson's. So the belt here with dexterity, vitality, resistance to all, and armor. And the boots with dexterity, vitality, resist all, and exploding palm damage on those. Also running Endless Walk set. So Traveler's Pledge here with cold skill damage. I'm using the cold skill on Exploding Palm. Crit hit damage and crit hit chance. And Compass Rose running this with damage, dexterity, crit hit damage, and crit hit chance. Supporting legendaries, running Gundo Gear. As I say, this is one of the things that's been updated. So running with cold skill damage, dexterity, vitality, crit hit chance. But as you can see, the orange set there. Exploding Palms on Death Explosion applies Exploding Palm, and Exploding Palm's damage is increased by 75 to 100%. As I say, I think that needs to be at least doubled, if not tripled. Unity, running this with crit hit chance, increased damage against elites, which it always rolls with, and cooldown. I'm just trying to get as much cooldown as I can. Typically, I would have that as crit hit damage, but I'm struggling to survive, so I've got the cooldown in there to help with my Epiphany cooldown. The Fist of Aztarask, running this with dexterity, vitality, and cooldown. Again, I did have that as 10% damage, but I needed to flick it to cooldown. Ideally, I wouldn't have the Vit there. I would have the 10% damage. The orange stat on this, Exploding Palms on Death Explosion damage is increased by 400 to 500%. So mine's a little low there, but, you know, it's okay. And Lion's Claw, running this with 10% damage, dexterity, and cooldown. Importantly, the orange stat 7-sided strike performs an additional 7 strikes, and that's really important because it's working with the Binding of the Lost in the cube for that extra damage reduction. So I'm getting 14 hits, so I can get up to 70% damage reduction from my Binding of the Lost. Okay, let's take a look at the cube now.
I am returning to town.
Okay, in the cube, I'm running the Flow of Eternities. Importantly, I'm not worried about the damage of 7-sided strike there, but I'm really worried about that cooldown of 7-sided strike. I need that to help me keep up my 7-sided strike and keep up my damage reduction. So Flow of Eternity is important there. Binding of the Lost, again, damage reduction here with 7-sided strike. That damage reduction I just spoke about. I'm getting up to 14 hits of 7-sided strike, giving me up to 70% damage reduction there for 7 seconds. Ring of Royal Grandeur, this is really important so that I can just wear the 5 pieces of Uliana's and the 2 pieces of Captain Crimson's for the 6 and 3 piece bonuses respectively. And Spirit Guards here, extra damage reduction because as I say, survivability I'm finding is really key here. So my generator is Way of the 100 Fists, and that's providing that extra 60% damage reduction for 3 seconds. Taking a look at my normal gems now, running cooldown in the helm, critical particularly for my Epiphany, all resistance in the armor pieces, and critical hit damage in the weapon. Legendary gems, I'm running Bane of the Trapped here. It's at rank 100. Bane of the Stricken down at rank 26. So obviously this could get stronger as I leveled that up. And Gogok of Swiftness at rank 53. Taking a look at my paragon, I've got all points in utility. If I was starting from scratch, I'd probably go area damage, resource cost reduction, because it is working with Captain Crimson's, then pick up radius and life per hit. Over in defense, I've got all points in if I was starting from scratch, resist all, life, armor, life regen. Over in offense, I've got all points in. If I was starting from scratch, I'd be going cooldown reduction, crit hit chance, crit hit damage, and attack speed. And in core, I've got all points in max spirit and movement speed. I've just got 100 points in vitality. I'm running around at 618,000 life. It seems a little low, but really this build has so many other survivability problems that, you know, adding an extra 100 or so points in there is probably not going to make a lot of difference to me. And the rest of my points into dexterity for damage. Taking a look at the skill screen now. I'm running Way of the 100 Fists, Assimilation, Cyclone Strike, Implosion, Exploding Palm, Impending Doom, Epiphany, Desert Shroud, Dashing Strike, Blinding Speed, Seven-Sided Strike, Sustained Attack, with passives, Mythic Rhythm, Near-Death Experience, Beacon of Atar, and Harmony. Let's show the close. Greater Rift, 103 down on an Exploding Palm Monk. Super fun build, needs massive buffs. Thank you very much for watching, and GG!